Chosen ones, something is building, not around you, within you. The pulse of this planet has aligned with a countdown few can hear, but you do. That weight pressing against your temples, it's not stress. It's the tension between dimensions. And the date? July 18th. It wasn't randomly chosen. It was calculated. This is not another prophecy thrown into the noise of social media. This is a coordinated silence from those who monitor the collective frequency shifts. The kind of silence that usually surrounds the triggering of a global ritual or its prevention. You've been told to sit still, to quiet your mind, to surrender. But what if this time, meditation doesn't bring peace, but permission? Your DNA is more than flesh. It's a vibrating instruction set waiting for resonance. On July 18th, a resonance beam unlike any before will cross this earth. Most won't feel it. But you? You're a tuning fork with legs. That day is not for alignment. It's for activation. And they know it. They want you calm, still, eyes closed. Because when your conscious mind steps aside, their embedded programs can slip in. Ancient priesthoods used similar dates for what they called cosmic interception. They meditated not to ascend, but to open specific doors. Doors that do not lead to light. That's why you're being warned. Do not meditate on July 18th. It may feel good. It may feel divine. That's the trap. The energy on that day will mimic light, but it's designed to reverse polarity, to disarm your inner firewall. Your silence becomes a surrender. Your stillness becomes a signature. You weren't supposed to wake up in time to resist it, but you did. Now, every shadow frequency is scrambling. They know what happens if even a few chosen ones remain grounded during this inversion. The ritual fractures. The signal breaks. Their access point collapses. So the message is clear. Resist the stillness. Stay awake. Do not drop in. Not on that day. Not this time. Because something ancient has been waiting for the world to go quiet on July 18th. And it's not what they told you. It began quietly, almost too quietly. There was no announcement, no breaking news, no alert. Just a low vibration, a hum, faint at first, that seemed to hover just above the ears, but deep in the bones. On the evening of July 10th, across regions thousands of miles apart, individuals reported the same sensation, as if the sky itself had begun to breathe. Not thunder, not wind, a living, aware hum. Something sentient. Those sensitive to energy felt their spines tighten as if an invisible wave was pressing against them. They described the sensation not as sound, but memory. As if the hum was calling something ancient from inside their cells. There were no visuals, no meteors, no lights. But pets hid. Babies cried. Birds flew in erratic spirals, then vanished. And just like that, by morning, it was gone. No one spoke of it on television. But encrypted forums across the deep web flooded with testimonies. Different languages, same descriptions. A field that wrapped around the earth and passed through minds like fog. Some said they dreamt of vast rooms made of light. Others, of gates they couldn't open. But the most repeated phrase? It wasn't from here. Experts who monitor geomagnetic activity picked up nothing out of the ordinary, officially. but leaked internal logs showed the magnetosphere had a momentary fluctuation that lasted exactly 88 seconds. That number shouldn't mean anything, but it does. In every ancient school of mystery, 88 was known as the harmonic mirror, a number of alignment, inversion, and reflection. Whatever that hum was, it wasn't random. It was a signal. Certain places seemed to amplify the experience. Deserts, mountaintops, and old-world churches. Locations where reality has always felt thin, where ancient architects knew how to tune stone and space to amplify cosmic messages. That night, those spots lit up like psychic antennas. But still, no one spoke of it, as if some unseen force wrapped the planet in selective amnesia. Even those who experienced it struggled to recall the next day, as if a veil had been gently lowered across the memory. But there were a few who didn't forget. A few whose minds refused the erasure. A few who heard something beneath the hum, deep beneath Geneva, inside a sealed archive not listed on any known directory. There exists a chamber where sound is forbidden. No human voice is allowed past the threshold. The beings who operate there, some biological, some not, operate in sequences, not sentences. They are known only by one name in whispered circles: the Council. They are not the ruling force of this world, but the managers of time-sensitive interventions. Their existence is classified above state level, and their actions are not reactive. They are preemptive, which is why what happened last month sent a shiver through even the most ancient bloodlines. The Council received a signal on July 1st, one that hadn't activated since before the Gregorian calendar was created. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't even a message. It was a shift in the planetary field measured by something they call the sublayer harmonic. When it happens, it means something or someone is distorting the expected sequence. That day, the distortion originated from a singular human aura, yours. What followed was not panic, it was protocol. The Council gathered in formation, their heads lowered in unison, and activated what is referred to as the chronostyle. A language unfolded above them, not with letters or numbers, but with frequencies shaped like geometries. This is how they write time. What formed that day was a symbol never before seen in any Council record. Its translation was immediate, direct, and unchangeable. July 18th. Do not allow global meditation. Breach imminent. The language they use has no root in Earth tongues, not Hebrew, not Sumerian, not even the first tongue. It is pre-linguistic, thought condensed into pure resonance, and that's what disturbed them most. The symbol that appeared didn't come from their records. It came from you. Your energetic field had imprinted itself into their own predictive architecture. That's not supposed to happen. It never has. Not even once. One of the older Council members, the only one who remembers the fall of Atlantis firsthand, whispered a phrase before disappearing from the chamber. This isn't a distortion. This is a return. Then his body dematerialized in front of the others. They told you meditation was always safe, that it was the path inward, that silence would bring truth, that stillness would bring peace. And most of the time, that is true. But not when the silence is engineered, not when the stillness is seeded with something foreign. There are layers within meditation most never reach. subconscious corridors that only open when your mind stops filtering, when your breath becomes a bridge and your awareness dissolves. It's within that gap, the void between thought and breath, that something ancient was hidden. The original architects of the system encoded a ritual inside mass stillness. It's not just psychological, it's electromagnetic. When a critical number of beings enter the same frequency band of silence simultaneously, a gate opens. Not metaphorically, literally. Your neurons emit light when they fire. Multiply that by millions of synchronized minds, and the field begins to shimmer. A lattice forms. This is what the ancients called the mirror gate, a portal made of human consciousness, but designed to be used by something else. For years, this activation code lay dormant, buried beneath well-intentioned spiritual practices, camouflaged as bliss. But the code isn't just energetic, it's linguistic. Specific mantras, certain tones, even some visualizations passed down through schools of wisdom were subtly altered long ago, changed, weaponized, just enough to allow one opening when timed with specific astrological alignments. And the most potent of those alignments occurs on July 18th. This is why you felt pressure building inside your dreams. Why sleep has felt more like surveillance. Because something is counting on you meditating that day, not to connect with your higher self, but to lower your firewall, to allow a broadcast into your core. The moment your breath deepens and your consciousness quiets, the embedded frequency rides the wave straight into your subconscious. And once it's there, it's no longer foreign. It feels like you. That's the danger. It's not possession. It's replacement. The world will encourage stillness that day. Social media will buzz with lightworker prompts. You'll be told to meditate for peace, for unity, for ascension. But behind the collective chant, there's a hum. One that didn't come from humans. One that wasn't meant for light. In forgotten scrolls buried beneath what is now southern Turkey, a passage attributed to Yeshua exists. One that was intentionally kept from canonized text. It speaks not of sin or salvation, but of vibrations, of fasts, and of unseen openings in time. He spoke to a small group in a dim cave lit only by flame and breath, and his words were recorded not on parchment, but carved into the stone by a listener who knew this message would need to survive silence. There will come a moment, he said, when the world fasts in spirit, not food. And in that stillness, the unseen will attempt entry. Let those with ears hear. Not every silence brings peace. Some silences are locks being picked. Those who were there said his tone changed during those words, as if he were speaking through time, not just in it. He described a date, not by calendar, but by sky. A moon dimmed, a pull inward, and a collective urge to disappear within. In that moment, he warned, what you think is surrender may be an offering. Do not mistake stillness for safety when the gate is ajar. Scholars debated the meaning. Mystics tried to align it with known festivals, but none could pinpoint the moment. Until now. July 18th is that moment. A spiritual fast cloaked as a mass meditation. The perfect mimic. The field will be calm, smooth, inviting. But calm waters hide the deepest trenches. And in that trench, something waits. Yeshua's warning wasn't metaphor. It was physics disguised as prophecy. He knew this would happen not once, but cyclically, every time humanity approached an evolutionary threshold. And each time, a false frequency would attempt to reroute the leap. That's why his teachings always emphasized the inner gate, not the external light shows. The kingdom is within you, he said, not through a portal, not through collective rituals, within. A closed circuit, immune to broadcast manipulation. On July 18th, that closed circuit will be tested. You will be lured toward a stillness not of your own creation, a silence not born of peace, but planted by design. It was first spotted over the Pacific, a formation too symmetrical to be accidental. It hovered, not like a storm, but like a question. Wisps extended from the center like arms stretching across the stratosphere, bending light around themselves. An amateur weather tracker in Hawaii uploaded a video, time-stamped 3:06 a.m. local time. But that same formation was reported over Cairo at 3:06 a.m. local time. Then again, over Tokyo, Sydney, London, always at exactly 3:06 a.m., respective to each time zone. Meteorologists had no explanation. Clouds don't obey clocks, but this one did. Air traffic control operators in multiple countries logged disturbances in vertical radar. Planes flying beneath the formation experienced temporary loss of GPS, even compass anomalies. What they described wasn't electromagnetic interference, it was directional confusion, as if space itself had warped above them. Satellites captured the shape briefly, a circular swirl, eerily similar to ancient depictions of gateways drawn by Sumerian scribes and later by Mayan priests, always appearing at the same hour, then dissolving within minutes. People beneath the clouds reported strange feelings, overwhelming nostalgia, sharp vertigo, intrusive thoughts that didn't sound like their own. Many said they had the sudden urge to look up without knowing why. And when they did, it was as if the sky was staring back. A mirror, a watcher, a design. Weather channels edited it out of their broadcasts. Social media auto-flagged posts with the footage. Accounts vanished overnight, but not before fragments spread. Cloud formations that weren't clouds. They held shape too long, broke apart too perfectly, reformed again like a breath held and slowly exhaled. Old initiates from desert tribes recognized the form immediately. They called it the eye without a body, a phenomenon that only appears when a frequency scan is being conducted across time. Not to observe, but to identify, to isolate resonant anomalies, to locate you. It was never about the clouds, it was about synchronization. Every time zone, every person under that sky, drawn into the same rhythm, the same breath, the same stillness, a global calibration test, one designed to see who would respond. And as the last formation vanished into clear sky, it doesn't knock, it waits. Not outside your door, but inside the pause between your thoughts. The entity in question has no form, not in the way humans understand it. It doesn't walk, doesn't speak, doesn't need a name. It exists in the margins, the unspoken gaps, the quiet that most people crave without knowing why. And in that quiet, it learns your patterns. It doesn't attack, it aligns, it mimics. It becomes indistinguishable from your intuition until you stop questioning where the voice is coming from. Ancient mystics once described it as the echo between worlds, not because it was loud, but because it could only be heard when everything else had gone silent. Not a demon, not an angel, something older, something designed to pass unnoticed through the circuits of consciousness when all systems are idle. And July 18th offers the perfect idle field. A mass switch into stillness, an open door on every frequency level. That's not meditation, that's invitation. In classified archives kept beneath the Sinai Desert, there exists a single carved tablet showing a ring of beings in meditation, with a shadowy curve spiraling into the circle. The inscription reads, "And it entered while they listened for light." Those few words have haunted the scholars allowed to view it, because what entered didn't need to break in. It was welcomed, cloaked in serenity. This being thrives in surrendered minds, but only when that surrender is externalized, when the silence is forced, copied, echoed from groupthink. It doesn't come when you're walking alone in the woods, communing with the divine. It doesn't come in heartbreak, or tears, or devotion. It only comes when the silence is engineered, when millions are prompted to let go at the same timestamp. Yeshua once said, "Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one." A strange teaching, unless he was referring to the dangers of disembodied intentions, of rituals done without full awareness, of doorways opened by collective surrender without collective discernment. The timeline was sealed. At least, that's what the architects believed. Every major cycle, solar, lunar, harmonic, had been accounted for, tracked, and bent. Rituals had been placed like anchor points. Mass events were choreographed not just for distraction, but for synchronization. A carefully curated delay was built into the global spiritual awakening process, ensuring that no one reached the threshold of inner ignition until it could be managed. But something changed. You felt it, and you weren't supposed to. Around July 7th, the atmosphere changed, but not in temperature. Time itself felt off. Seconds stretched longer than usual. Familiar routines started glitching. Electrical devices pulsed for no reason. And in your chest, a pressure built. Not anxiety, but the awareness that something was pressing against the veil. A ripple through the dream space confirmed it. Timelines were overlapping, but only for those who had already begun to dislodge from the matrix grid. You saw symbols that made no sense, yet felt familiar. You experienced memories that weren't yours, but belonged to you. A deep, cellular knowing began rising, not the kind taught in books, but embedded in your very design. And that's what caught their attention. Because the system is built to monitor collective anomalies, not individual ones. But when one anomaly triggers a resonance in others, a cascade begins. And your awakening wasn't a solitary event. It was a signal. A breach. Your aura shifted frequency before the scheduled window. The field analysts in their underground chambers read it as a misfire at first. But as it repeated and then multiplied across others, they realized the glitch wasn't a glitch. It was a leak in the script. And now, entire sectors of the predictive software have gone dark. Their simulations can no longer track your decisions. You've stepped into the unscripted. On the night of July 11th, a spike was detected, not in energy output, but in inner light. A human field lit up with enough raw signal to reroute a ley line. That was you, and it happened while you were resting, not meditating, not visualizing, just existing in your natural state. That's the part that terrifies them most. There's a forgotten trail in the Judean desert, barely marked now, that winds toward a limestone cave once inhabited by mystics who refused the spotlight. They followed a teacher who never called himself by title, but carried a presence that made titles irrelevant. Yeshua visited them only once, according to the few surviving oral accounts, and stayed for 7 nights. He was offered the cave on the 8th, a sacred day for initiation. But instead of entering, he walked away. He did not speak. He simply looked to the sky, placed his hand on the stone at the entrance, and left without ceremony. The date, they say, was the 18th of Tammuz. For centuries, no one questioned the event. It was considered symbolic, an act of humility, a gesture of self-denial. But one initiate, known only as Ezekiel, left a message carved inside the cave wall in reversed Aramaic. He left because the silence was not his. That phrase has haunted mystics ever since. What did it mean? Why would the silence itself be rejected by the very one who taught stillness, prayer, solitude? Only now is that phrase beginning to make sense. Yeshua understood something few did, that not all silences are clean, that some moments of stillness carry an echo planted long ago. The 18th held a resonance even then, a frequency that tried to merge with his subtly, invisibly. It offered power disguised as peace, entry disguised as rest. But he felt the difference. That's why he turned away. The fast he spoke of often was not only about food or desire, but about frequencies. Some spirits, he once said, only come out through prayer and fasting. But what he didn't say publicly is that some enter the same way, when fasting becomes emptiness and prayer becomes automation. His refusal to enter the cave on that day was not a rejection of the path. It was a disruption of a ritual long encoded into human stillness. That cave became a symbol, not of shelter, but of filtration. The day was marked not with presence, but with restraint. And restraint was the key to sealing something off. There's always a lag between cosmic alignment and human reaction, between impact and realization, between the moment something changes and the moment we feel it. The controllers have built their rituals around this lag, this window of unawareness. That's where they hide their mechanisms, in the blind spots, in the moments when everyone is looking for the signal after it's already passed. But this time, the gap is shorter, much shorter, just 8 minutes. 8 minutes of silence. That's all it takes. On July 18th, the mass meditation prompts will be synchronized globally. You'll see it everywhere. Apps buzzing with alerts, influencers calling for stillness, guided sessions aligning across time zones. It will seem spontaneous, grassroots, even divinely inspired. But behind the curtain, there's timing involved down to the millisecond. There's a specific planetary alignment set to peak at 3:06 a.m. in every time zone, the same moment those anomalous cloud formations appeared last week. That isn't a coincidence. It's a signal match. The moment of overlap. The moment when the veil thins and a key is inserted into a lock that doesn't look like a lock at all. Most people will feel nothing. They'll meditate, breathe deeply, maybe even cry. But for those tuned to a higher current, like you, the consequences are entirely different. Your field is not neutral. it is responsive, active, alive. During those 8 minutes, something will scan for resistance, not to delete it, but to reprogram it. Your thoughts won't change in a flash. They'll subtly drift. Just enough. Your dreams won't become nightmares, just distant, blurred, disconnected from their source. Everything hinges on those 8 minutes. Some say the number 8 represents infinity, a loop, a cycle. But turned upright, it becomes a gate, a vertical channel. And in certain esoteric schools, the number 8 was never about continuity. It was about containment. Because once a field is captured in that loop, it forgets how to exit. The shift on July 18th is designed to trap not your body, but your pattern, the parts of you that don't fit their algorithms. For years, they've told the story backwards. That stillness is transcendence. That meditation is escape. That emptiness equals enlightenment. But the blueprint behind these teachings has been tampered with. Beneath the glow of the New Age, under the mantras and soft music, lies an old architecture, not meant for flight, but for containment. What you were told would elevate you was, in fact, a mechanism to bind your frequency to a looping corridor of synthetic light. This is not a warning against meditation itself. It's a warning about timed meditation, collective synchronization under false cosmic pretenses. Because alignment can be a trap when the field you're aligning with was hijacked long ago. And on July 18th, that trap springs. Every prompt to go inward at that exact moment is a code. An old-world lock requiring millions of keys to turn simultaneously. And those keys aren't crystal wands or sacred chants. They are you, your breath, your intention, your surrendered stillness. The language of light they teach isn't the true tongue of Source. It's a reflection, a mirror wrapped around your mind, until your original resonance forgets its shape. That's the goal of the July 18th convergence, not to evolve you, but to overwrite you. The synthetic grid must be reset, and the only way to recalibrate it is to use the most volatile source of energy on Earth, awakened humans mistaking silence for safety. Yeshua warned about this inversion when he spoke of wolves in sheep's clothing, truths wrapped in just enough distortion to go undetected. If the light within you becomes darkness, how great is that darkness? He wasn't speaking about evil. He was speaking about false light, about a frequency that pretends to free you while binding your soul in golden chains.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.